Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is a very highly anticipated build video. For those of you that have been watching the channel long enough and you knew this was coming, this is of course the Lazy Crow. Yes, we gave it a cheesy name because quite frankly this is going to be very simple to use and some might deem that lazy. But if you're one of those players that wants to make things very simple and you're struggling with a Necromancer, this is a 1-bar DPS build. Everything you need is here. Your damage output, your sustainability, your survival, everything you need in a build to be able to perform in all content. Now, of course, we are utilizing the 1-bar ring, the one ring to rule them all. You know which one that is, and if you don't, of course, there's a link here to tell you how to get it and what it does. But we are using the mythic item that prevents us from using 2 bars. So, if you want a 1-bar DPS build, you are in the right place, especially if you want to be a Necromancer. Necromancers can be a little complicated. We're going to make that really easy for you today. Just a brief moment to mention that this video is, of course, sponsored by Outplayed. This is a new app, or recent app, that is now being used by many people across the world for their gaming recordings. Now, not just to record and then edit and upload like you would normally do if you were a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, or just in general using it as a hobby, but this is something that will capture your favorite moments automatically depending on the game. It will actually track what you're doing. So it will notice if you get headshots, kills, wins, losses, or deaths, and it will actually automatically capture those moments so you can save them in a folder for later. Upload it straight to YouTube, Twitter, Discord, including individual specific channels for your convenience. Get the app today with a link down below and start recording your clips. So as per usual, of course, we're going to go into the stats first of all. Now, these aren't necessarily set in stone. These can change depending on your group, but we're going to go over them anyway. We have a lot of buffs at base. Loads of things already covered that you don't have to micromanage. So we do have, at the moment, 35.1k max Magicka, 27.8k max health, and 14k max stamina. We are on 632 mag recovery, 521 health recovery, and 694 stam recovery. And bear in mind, we are going to be using tripods all day long because we don't need anything else, so that is going to go up. So our recovery is actually, the word was recovery there, by the way, I lost my voice, 786, 653, and 848. Why is our stam recovery higher? Because we're going ahead a little bit here. We're using a full, on the body, apart from 2 pieces, medium set. A full medium set. We are also 51% crit chance. That can go up to 57 in a group situation. Our spell pen and physical pen is not necessarily that high. But bear in mind, of course, your group should bring pen bonuses with them. If they do, you're going to be hitting cap easily. If not, then you might want to bring your own. That's an easy fix. We can obviously plug that with a different Munda Stone. Now, what you can do if you prefer, you can change the Munda Stone from the Thief. Bear in mind, you will lose crit chance. Also note that crit chance is calculated as 1% per every 219 crit. So basically, you'll be losing not far short of 10% there. If you're happy to lose the 10% and go down to 41% crit chance, which will push you to 47-ish if you're in a group, which isn't too bad, then, of course, you can go with a Lava Munda Stone instead, giving you about 4.4k penetration on top of what you already have. Bear in mind, that'll push you to around 6k then. And, of course, if someone brings a basic taunt with major and minor breach involved, that can then push you up quite a bit alongside Alkosh and any other buffs and bonuses you might have. Reaching pen cap in a group situation is not that difficult, but if you are struggling to do so, you can swap stones if you like. The other thing to consider, obviously, while solo, is you might want to do that then too. The choice is yours. It depends on what you want to lose to gain. If you're in a situation where you've got Alkosh, Crimson, Major and Minor Breach, and all the rest of it, you don't need to change the stone because you are actually going to overcap. But again, the choice is yours. Failing that, you can also change your front bar weapon trait. Spoiler, we are using the precise bonus. If you wanted to change that and sacrifice a little bit of crit chance without messing around with Munda Stones, you can change that to sharpened instead. Again, you will lose something to gain something, so the choice is yours. Spell damage is on 4.4, almost 4.5k. That will go up. And, of course, our spell and physical resistance is bloody high for a DPS build. We're on 20k and 19.3. Bear in mind, there is a skill change for that later that will actually make that go higher. We have got a lot going for us already. We have high survival in terms of resistances and health. We've got really decent damage output on our flat stats before we even start firing skills. Everything is where you need it at base. Now we're going to get into the skills, which is going to be quite simple, but these are very important. They have been selected on purpose. So the whole point of a Necromancer obviously is to raise the dead. You want to raise the dead, mess with corpses, all that weird stuff. You can do that. So the first skill, obviously, is the bread and butter of the Necromancer, is raising a skeleton. We've got Stalking Blast Bones. This is in the Gravelord skill line. Second ability you unlock, so you get it very, very early on as a new player. And, of course, this is a little different to most skills. It technically counts as a spammable, but it does have a timer on it. That is going to be worked into our rotation. So basically, when you fire this, it will jump at the target, go boom. But during that process, your skill is grayed out. You can't use it again for another 2.5 seconds. So what you need to do is weave in some skills in between. Usually that's quite complicated for people because you have to go skill, light attack, then blast bones. Skill, light attack, then blast bones. We aren't going to do that. We are utilizing heavy attacks, surprisingly, a lot. And the timer for the heavy attack is so close to that same time frame that you would use skill, light, blast, skill, light, blast, that we actually have perfect timing with the blast bones without that complicated side of it. So we literally just blast bones, heavy, blast bones, heavy. It lines up bang on time. Now, what this does is it will run at the target and explode and do flame damage in area of effect to all enemies. Note, area of effect. It's not a direct target, or, well, it is direct. It's not a single target skill. Direct damage is something that hits once, like that. Big bang. Whether it's single or AoE. This is an area of effect direct skill. It's a one-time bang in big AoE. So yes, the lightning staff boosts that. We'll get to that later in the passives. All you need to do is maintain this. If it's grey, you can't fire it. If it's not grey, you can. Keep these coming. Pick it up, fire it, pick it up, fire it, pick it up, fire it. Don't let it run out. You will not struggle with resources with this skill because it's already covered in our setup. Your maintenance for your Magicka bar, your maintaining of your sustainability is already covered. Just bear in mind, the further away, obviously, the more damage it does, but in PvE, it's not normally as simple as that. In PvE, if the target is standing still, you being further away doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is if it runs out of that range. If it starts running out of the range, and the further it runs, obviously, the further the skeleton has to travel, and then the more it will get aggressive. It will do more and more damage. In PvP, generally speaking, if this is at 28 meters range, which is its maximum, it will just jump and go bang. But if someone runs, it will go past the 28 meters. That's when it has to run. That's when you'll get the increase. That happens rarely in PvE, but if it does, congratulations, you got more damage out of it. On a standstill target, though, you're not going to see that effect. You're just going to see it go boom. Keep this in your rotation at all times. You raise skeletons, they explode. Fantastic. It's probably a bit too long to explain that, but fire and forget, fire and forget. Wall of Elements. Very important. You need to go to the Destruction Staff skill line. Morph this to Unstable Wall of Elements. You could use the other variant if you want a longer duration, but you don't really have to. And this does explode at the end anyway. So if you reapply it too early, it will go boom. If you let it go off, it will go boom. We are using a Lightning Staff, so the Unstable Wall of Elements will be changed name-wise to Unstable Wall of Storms. The difference is with versus other weapon types is that this applies shock damage. And during the time it's on the ground, anything that is concussed inside of that wall will become off balance. Off balance, if you haven't watched my videos before, has been explained in many, many videos so many times, is a very important basic game mechanic. If an enemy is knocked off balance, they will be able to be affected by base mechanics of a heavy attack more aggressively. So you will do more damage to them, basically. You will exploit them. That is a tutorial lesson that you get taught at the very beginning that most people forget about. If a target is off balance and you heavy attack them, if they can be CC'd, they will fall down. If they can't, they won't. But during that time as well, any heavy attack that you or anybody else does to them will be increased by 70% damage of whatever you're doing already. And also, during that time, you will get back double resources for your fully charged heavy attack. Whether it's a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, stamina, or magicka, doesn't matter. Whatever that resource is, you will get double back during that phase. Now, the downside is, obviously, when off balance is gone after 7 seconds, that target, not other targets, that target has a 15-second immunity phase where it can't be off balance for a while. But it doesn't mean you can't switch to another target and utilize the same mechanics there. So the most crucial thing to take from this is that during your lightning wall on the ground, if anyone is concussed, which is a status effect from lightning, which is chance-based, they will go off balance and you will benefit from that. Always heavy attack. Keep doing it. Make sure they go off balance. This build has that on tap, but if you have other builds supplying that as well, of course you're going to generate massive uptime on off balance with lots and lots of different targets, and you're never going to run out of juice. This, fire, fire, fire. This, keep it down, keep heavy attacking. That's your main bread and butter for the entire build. If you've used the Easy Sork or the Lazy Sork, the 1-bar version, this will already be apparent to you. This won't be a problem. And finally, I say finally, before we even get to the end, your last damage skill. Your spammable, your damage over time, and your last supporting damage skill. This one is also in the Gravelord skill line. It's the last one you unlock, so it takes a little while to get to it. But it starts off as Shocking Siphon. Change it to Detonating Siphon. This one will do disease damage over time, rapidly, and when it finishes, or when you recast it, it will explode. While slotted also, you do increase all the damage you do, by default, by 3%, just for being there. That's not weapon damage or spell damage increased, by the way. That's the damage you do is increased. Slightly lesser than Minor Slayer, although, by the way, they do stack. Now, this is very simple. It's a beam that's attached to you. It has 28 meter range, and it lasts for 20 seconds, so it's a very long timer. And anyone caught in the radius of the initial cast will, of course, take damage, and it will explode, of course, at the end. But anyone in the beam that you have attached to you from this, as long as you don't go out of the range, will also take damage over time as well. So if you line this up and go through multiple targets, all of them will take damage. It's really aggressive, it's really nasty damage-wise, and it can apply healing debuffs as well, which is not massive, but it's a nice side effect, being that you can get a status effect from it. Now, the one thing you do need to know about this is, of course, a very important corpse mechanic for the Necromancer. Corpses can be utilized by the Necromancer. They can be abused, which is rude, but they can. This cannot be cast on its own. This can. This cannot. This, which I deliberately missed out, drops a corpse on the ground when it explodes. You activate this to consume that corpse and apply this skill. So keep you all up. Blast bones, blast bones, blast bones while heavy attacking. And as soon as there's one corpse on the ground, activate this. For the next 20 seconds, you're doing damage for free. Then, because you're spamming these so much, you will always have a corpse to use. That I'll explain more in the rotation later, but that is something to note. You must have one of these fired first, or a dead body on the ground in order to take advantage of it. These are all you need for your damage for this build. On the ground damage, constant spamming while heavy attacking, and then utilize this once every 20 seconds. And one of the most important things for you to know is where you can spot the timer for these skills. So you want to go into your options, you want to go into combat, and you need to go to ability bar timers, on or off. Back bar doesn't matter because we don't have one. So make sure your timers are on. The reason for this is because, watch my wall of elements on my bar. I need to hit something in order to see my... there we go. So it's got a timer counting down. All I need to do is track that. And when it runs out, I can either wait for it to run out and it will go pop and I can recast it. Or I can maintain it and when it's about to run out, reapply it. Every time you reapply it, it will give you a timer. Keep an eye on that. The rest is easy. And when it comes to this particular skill that we're using for the Necromancer, that will do the same, but it'll have a 20-second timer. Just keep an eye on that. You don't have to overcomplicate things, especially on PC with loads of add-ons prompting, press this now, because it's not necessary. It will show you clearly in the game what you need to do. The rest will come in a moment. So, back to skills again. Inner Light. You already have Major Savagery and Major Prophecy. It comes with the ring that we're using. You don't need those skills. They are already there. But this does give you an increased 5% maximum Magicka just for being on your bar, which does contribute to your overall damage. So we are taking it for that purpose. It also carries a passive. We're taking it for that purpose too. Do not activate this. You never need to. However, if you do feel like you have enough damage anyway and you can sacrifice the Magicka amount and you don't mind doing that, then you can change it to something else. You can change it to Necrotic Potency, which is in the Bone Tyrant skill line. Third ability you unlock. Slap that on there, and you will take 3% less damage for it being there, so your survival is up. And if there are corpses on the ground, maybe you've killed loads of stuff, or maybe your ability's already running and you've got a load of blast bones firing off in the air, you can consume those corpses. If you consume them, for every single one that you consume, by the way, this starts off as Bitter Harvest, morph it to Necrotic Potency, you will get 2 seconds over time healing, and you will get 6 ultimate. So yes, that does mean if you consume 6 targets, which is your maximum per time, by the way, you will get back 36 ultimate, and you will heal for 12 seconds. And it scales off of your maximum health, so if you've got buffs and bonuses increasing your health, then of course it will be stronger. Just bear in mind, if there are 12 targets on the ground, yes, you can cast it twice. Yes, you will get 72 ultimate back, but the initial heal timer will be overwritten by the second cast. So this is absolutely insane for building ultimate when everything around you is dying, but you will have to sacrifice a little bit of damage to do so. That can trade off eventually, because you will now be able to fire your ultimate much more frequently, which could in turn output a lot more DPS in those scenarios. So while one is a flat bonus to stay there all the time, the other one is more active and a little more complicated, but it is still a valid option if you choose to. This is a one-bar build. It deliberately needs to be simple. So, again, the inner light is for more damage. Don't touch it. This is for more survival. Don't touch it. But if you do, you will claim back a lot more ultimate. It's a little bit more micromanagey, but it's up to you. Essentially, these are the main skills you need. You can just get away with never touching this button. Spirit Guardian is your heal. Every build that wants to claim it can play content in any way, shape, or form, if you're not fully 100% putting your whole faith into a healer keeping you alive 100% of the time, needs a heal or some survival. This is very, very powerful. This is from the Live and Death skill line. 4th ability to unlock starts off as Spirit Mender, morph it to Spirit Guardian. True necromancy form, we have to have ghosts and skeletons. So we've got the theme all covered. We've got consuming of souls or corpses. We've got disease and putrid shit. We've got skeletons that we raise from the dead, and now we play with ghosts. So this here, as you can see from our ability timers, lasts a full 16 seconds. It says 15, but 0 counts as 1 as well. While that is present, if you or an ally go low health, the lowest person is the most important, obviously, you will get a beam attached to you, and you will heal constantly. And it's a very, very fast and high rate heal. It's every 2 seconds with a big chunk. It's not like some of them where it's like 1.5 here or 1 here every half a second or 2 seconds. It's almost 3k per 2 seconds, and that can crit. So it's quite aggressive. It's not far off crit surge for a sorcerer, although you don't have to do any damage to apply. You just need to make sure you maintain it. At the same time, you're buffed as far as damage intake is concerned, because that ghost will take 10% of the damage you take. And they can't die in anywhere other than arenas or PvP. So that's nuts. And it consumes the spirit as it dies and releases a corpse on the ground. So that can also be used with Necrotic Potency or with Detonate and Siphon to get more damage and or more ulti. Again, this needs to be with you if you're in trouble. If you need a heal, activate this and this will keep you up. But you do have another option if you choose to. You can go into the Assault skill line, which we'll go straight to that actually rather than finding the skill on its own. And you can unlock Resolving Vigor. Starts off as Vigor, morph it to Resolving. Put this on your bar. Now, it says technically it lasts 5 seconds, which it does. Big heals every second for 5 seconds. But bear in mind, it also has an extra bonus to it. If you read this very carefully, you can see here that it heals over 5 seconds, not every 1 second. So that's a bit nuts. But it gives you minor resolve for 20 seconds. So you get a heal for 5, minor resolve for 20. Technically, this is more emergency heal rather than consistent heal. So it's not necessarily stronger than the Ghost, but it is more bursty. But the resistance bonus, if you don't already have it in your group, now pushes you, without effort, to a whopping 23k and 22.2k resistances. You're not far off of a very tanky healer or a very squishy tank. It's pretty high. So again, this is about taste and preference. Those are your two options. I personally would recommend to use the Ghost and try to micromanage that. But failing that, if you just want an emergency heal, oh my god, I'm dying, and quickly activate it, then obviously Vigor is your friend. So, you have Ghosts, you have Skeletons, you have Consuming Souls, you have Disease and Putrid shit, and you have some Elements. Now, the Mage's Guild Shooting Star skill is absolutely broken. It is cheap. It can be fired very quickly, obviously, in a short period of time, because when you do fire it, you get 12 ultimate back for every target you hit. So the rate of fire at which this can fire off, and the speed that you can get ultimate back based on this skill as well, if you've got corpses, is stupid. Is the Necromancer Abomination skill or Colossus skill very useful with its major vulnerability and damage output? Yes, of course it is. But honestly, for this particular build, Shooting Star is ridiculous. Get Mage's Guild 10, I know it's a chore. Get Shooting Star morphed out of Meteor, and you won't look back. Until they change this, I'm not taking that off the build. It is nuts. So activate that. Big meteor comes down. Loads of flame damage. Damage over time on the ground. Loads of ulti back. Fire it again when it's full. Keep that with you at all times. Again, if you've got something else for the meantime, not a problem. Destra ulti. Pestilent Colossus. That was hard to say. It's up to you. But I would highly, highly recommend that you go for Shooting Star as soon as possible. That's it for the skills. That is it. It's no more complicated than that. We are going to go over the important passives, though, because the passives make the build. Passives are very important for any build. So, you need reusable parts. When your Blast Bones, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender dies, which they will because Blast Bones explodes, that's dead, your next one costs you 50% less. So basically, you will always have the maximum reduction to cost for these two skills because they're never, ever going to not be there. That passive, as you can see, with buffs timers, is always with us. Reusable parts is always there. If I fire this pet now, it's gone. But if that dies, it's back again. So I'll cast it again. When that goes away, it will come back. Now, I don't need to recast that to make that happen or let it die to let that happen. I could just simply throw out a Blast Bones. And when that goes boom, which it will, I've got the buff again. So my next pet, again, is cheaper. It will be with you the whole time. Blast Bones is on tap, so you're never going to have a full costing Blast Bones. There it goes. Bang. Passive again. Fire it. Bang. Passive again. Oh no, my healer pet is going to die. Easy peasy. Now, bear in mind there will be some gaps in there sometimes, but generally speaking, if you're spamming Blast Bones, that will never run out. Now, increased critical strike chance against enemies under 25% health by 8% for each Gravelord ability slotted. That is bonkers. We have 2 of those abilities. You can have 3 if you put the ulti on there. We currently have a 16% increase to crit chance at low health. It won't show in our stats. So while it says like 50-ish% crit chance, now that goes up dramatically if the target is low. So your execute is passive. Keep doing what you're doing. You will hit harder. While a Gravelord ability is active, your spell and physical pen are increased by 1500. So as you can see here, our pen looks a bit Pumbaa to start with, like we explained earlier. But if we have one active, so we will actually activate a Blast Bones on this dude here. That doesn't count as active because it's going to go bang. See this? We have an ability active. 3k pen. That now starts to make a difference. So on the surface, it looks like it's low, but in an active combat situation, it's there. Very important passive indeed. And of course, increases your damage done with damage over time effects by 10%. All damage over time, including the Detonate and Siphon that we just used, our Lightning, Wall, and our Heavy Attack, because damage over time, are all increased by 10%. Bone Tyrant, we're not using too much of this, but obviously we do have Necrotic Potency if we want to. Some of these are passive for being slotted, some of them are just bonuses full stop. So whenever an enemy you are in combat with dies within 28 meters of you with an ability slotted on your bar, so this for example, you will actually restore 200 Magicka and stamina, which is broken as hell because we're never going to run out anyway. Reduces the damage you take from damage over time abilities by 15% while a Bone Tyrant ability is active. So if you activate this, the heal you're generating at that period of time will count as an active skill, which will give you this benefit. You are stronger or harder to kill with those abilities. Increases your healing received by 2% for each ability of this type slotted. Again, healing received, very nice. And just for being a Necromancer and having this passive, you get an increased 1250 health. Just because you can. Necromancers are quite active and feel quite squishy even though they've got healing abilities because you have to really pay attention to corpses to be able to take advantage of them. So to protect you from that minor side effect, instead of having resistances like a lot of classes do, we have a flat health bonus. Living Death. We do have a healing pet if you choose to use it. Now, while you have a negative effect on you, your healing done is increased by 8%. So if you get hit by something and you've got a dot on you or something, you heal more. While you have a Living Death ability slotted, your critical strike chance with all healing abilities is increased by up to 20% in proportion to the severity of the target's wounds. So any heals you actually have will be stronger the lower your health. That's relevant for one of the sets we're using, as well as the actual ghost. When you use an ability on a corpse, you generate 10 ultimate once every 16 seconds. We are using corpses. We're using this. And of course, you could be using this as well. While you get 6 ultimate back per corpse, you also get an extra 10 back once every 16 seconds that you do so. very handy. And while you have a Blast Bones, Skeletal Mage, Spirit Mender active, any of those, your health, magic, and stamina recovery is increased by 200. So we showed you earlier that with a potion, we are sitting on a nice healthy 776, 653, and 848. Well, activate a pet, and that now escalates quite dramatically. 1,078 mag recovery, 951 health recovery, and 1,178 stam recovery. We have resources for days. Tanky, high flat stats, great recovery, good damage output, resistances, heals, the lot. And infinite resource sustainability because of the way that we do our damage. Now, we are going to go into the Destruction Staff passives. These are incredibly important for this particular build. Now, we have the Tri-Focus bonus. Lightning Staff heavy attacks damage nearby enemies for 100% of the damage done. Now, they altered Lightning heavy attacks to actually work properly because they've been broken for a little while, although very strong. And basically, the heavy attack damage you do is single target damage over time. But the splash damage is area of effect. So you do as much damage in area of effect as you do to that target. You cannot crit the splash damage, but you can crit the heavy attack to then buff the splash damage. So if you hit the target for, say, a 50k heavy attack and it was a non-crit, that's 50k damage in area of effect. If you do a crit of 100k on single target, that is now, again, 100k in area of effect. Your single target heavy attack actually boosts the splash that it does. This slides into another mechanic, or passive, and that is this one here. Equipping a Lightning Staff increases your damage done with area of effect abilities by 10%. This Tri-Focus bonus makes the single target heavy that we do splash for 100% of the damage done. The 100% of the damage done is boosted by 10%. So if you hit one target for, say, 100k, all surrounding targets are getting hit for 110. These stack up. Not to mention, of course, while our penetration values were slightly an issue, they're actually not, because your Destruction Staff abilities, i.e. your heavy attack, your light attack, and your Wall of Elements, all go through 10% of the enemy's spell resistance. So that's also a benefit. You have a higher chance of applying status effects while holding a Destruction Staff. So any status effects that you apply, whether it be a 1% chance, a 20% chance, or a 50% chance, it's multiplied by 100%, so it is actually scaled up. So if you were to do Wall of Elements, of course, it's 1%, now it's 2. If you were to use a Glyph, that would be 20%, now it's 40. And they stack and stack and stack. So this does give you an increase on the base of the percentage. It's not a 100% chance to do it, it's a 100% chance on top of what you already have. And of course, if you kill an enemy with a Destruction Staff ability, light attack, heavy attack, or Wall of Elements, you will get Magicka back. The bottom part, ignore it, that's only for ice staffs, or ice staves, before the grammar Nazis get me. We're using one piece of light armor. One. We do get a benefit to having that one piece. Every single one of these is for each piece worn. So we do get effectiveness versus snares. We get reduction to sprint cost. We get mag recovery, reduction to cost. We get increased spell resistance, which is why it's higher than our physical. We have increased weapon and spell crit rating, only 1%, because we have one piece. And we also have increased to physical and spell penetration. Again, that's a one-piece bonus. If you were to use more light pieces, then you would get more, but we can't because of the way the build is set up. We are using a heavy set and a medium set, and one piece of light, which is a misc one on its own. The medium armor damage bonuses are quite nice, though. This increases your critical damage and healing done by 2% per piece. As you can see there, we've got 5 pieces, so it's a 10% bonus. It's massive. Increased stam recovery. Reduction to cost for stam abilities. Granted, we're not really using many stam abilities at all. In fact, none, unless you're using Vigor, but it does contribute to the reduction to cost. And the recovery is really helpful because the higher your recovery, the easier it is to get in and out of fight situations where you have to maybe sprint, dodge, break free, or whatever. Those things are very, very helpful. You are going to use them as a base mechanic. You need to maintain that bar. The biggest mistake most people make when they have a Magicka build, basically using as much Magicka abilities as possible, is that their small resource bar, the stamina one, runs out too soon. So they break free once, they dodge roll once. Oh my god, I'm out of stamina. What do I do if I get hit? Our high recovery allows us to use that more often. Also, reduction to sneak cost, not massively important, but we'll take it anyway. And of course, increases your weapon and spell damage by 2% per piece. High weapon and spell damage, high crit damage. And movement speed is increased, dodge roll reduction to cost. Very handy passives. With full medium on one of our sets, we can take advantage of all of these. We are using one heavy piece, and we have to. There are positives and negatives to all this stuff, but of course we do get 5 positive passives, if you can take advantage of them. Increase physical and spell resistance, increase health recovery, resources back for being hit, increase max health, increase Magicka and stamina back from our heavy attacks, and of course healing received. These are minor, you don't have to have them, they're not essential, but if you want to get all the extra bonuses for the full build, then get these when you can. We are, of course, taking advantage of the Mages Guild passives. We are using Inner Light, if you want to, and Shooting Star. If you do that, of course, the 5% bonus here changes, because Shooting Star and that combined both give you a 2% bonus to Magicka Recovery and Maximum. So both on the bar give you a 4% increase on top of what you already had from the one skill. But again, it's about choice. Don't worry about this one. The 80% increase to damage done with a heavy attack on top of the 70% from off balance with Empower is not necessary for us to stack from other places because we have it on the ring we're using already. So you don't actually need to buy this passive. It's irrelevant to you. Everything else, however, take it if you want to. We're not really actively using any of these, but you do want to increase the duration of the skills with this passive because the Meteor will last longer. It has got damage over time coming from it. Undaunted, of course, take every synergy you can see. They'll give you resources back, including a heal, and yes, that can crit. Also, we are using 3 different types of armor. 1 piece of heavy, 1 piece of light, 5 pieces of medium. That's right, we've gone old school 5-1-1. We have 6% increase to stamina, magicka, and health. Across the board, absolutely banging. You do not need any passes from here. We are a high elf. Quick disclaimer, no, you don't have to be. You can be any race you like in the game. The race is the least important part of any build. It's just aesthetics mostly. There are very small stat increases or decreases depending on which ones you choose as to how that will or won't affect your build, but you can always plug that somewhere else. However, I'm going to tell you why we chose the high elf over other things. If you activate an ability that costs magicka or stamina, whichever resource is lowest, you will get resources back. So how that works is if you cast an ability with magicka, and that's your biggest bar, you'll get stamina back. If you cast an ability with stamina, and it's your biggest bar, you get magicka back. But if you do it the other way around, so you cast from a small bar, you don't get anything in the other one. So basically, if we fired off a blast bone, stamina would refill. I may have read that a little bit awkwardly, but that's basically what it is. Your highest resource cost, or pool even, is the one that will boost the other one once every 6 seconds. Not to mention, of course, if you're using a channeling skill, which you are with a heavy attack, you take less damage during that time. Increase your max magicka by 2k, and increase your weapon and spell damage by 258. These are very, very flat. There are other bonuses in the game that you might want to benefit from instead, but these are just flat damage output and survival and recovery all at once. It's very, very helpful. This did, if you're talking flat damage numbers, perform ever so slightly higher than other choices. But then if you manipulate your stats and figures, you can also break even with other races anyway. So the choice is up to you. It's about, do you want flat damage? Do you want survival? Do you want crit chance? Do you want more resources? Whatever you find is better for you and your performance is what you should go with. Or maybe you just want to pick something because you like it. There's nothing wrong with that. The race is the least important part. But we are a high elf. Get medicinal use. Your potions will last 30% longer. We're using tripods. We get health back. Fill the health bar. Stamina back. Fill the stam bar. Magic back. Fill the magic bar. We don't need anything else. And for the privilege of activating those, make sure they are always grayed out. Make sure they're never sitting there not being used. We will get increased health, magic, and stam recovery the whole time. You will outplay the cooldown if you constantly pop the potions. So don't just use them in emergencies. Keep them running at all times and you will be as effective as you can be. Now, we're going to go into champion points first of all, and then we're going to go into the gear, because I normally do it the other way around. Or should I just stick to it? Okay, sorry. We'll go into the gear, and then we'll do the champion points. So, if you've played the Lazy Sork, or the 1-bar Easy Sork already, please don't look at the gold there. It's on PTS. No, you can't have any. You will probably already have most of the gear, because the gear is relatively the same. Very similar. One of the choices is actually the same, but there is a very specific reason as to why we've chosen a medium set for this particular build. So first of all, you're going to want the Lightning Staff of the Sergeant. This comes from Wayrest Sewers. You can do it on normal. Remember, I'm considering the average player here, making sure that you don't have to do any vet content whatsoever to acquire the gear. This is in a base game dungeon. You want this with a Shock Glyph if you're the one controlling off balance, because your Lightning Staff and your Shock Glyph combined will do that. But if someone else in your group is already bringing an abundance of balance, make yourself 2 of these and fit one with a weapon and spell damage glyph instead, because you no longer need to carry that burden and you can appreciate more damage. It has max health, health recovery, and weapon and spell damage, but the most important thing is if you maintain heavy attacks, at least make sure you do one every 5 seconds, you'll stack 4 different bonuses of 645 towards your heavy attack, and you will hit like a steam train with your heavies. Now, the way to set this set up is to make sure you've got the staff, which counts as 2 pieces. Make sure you've got 2 rings, and then the chest in heavy. Obviously, divines with maximum magicka. That's your 5-piece bonus, all done. You've got the heavy piece for your Undaunted passives and the most resistances, because you've got 2, 7, 7, 2 there. Chest is the biggest resistance piece, and everyone's happy. You don't need to swap bars, you don't need another one on the back. Precise is what you want to go with, but again, if you are suffering with penetration, you do find that most of the time you want to keep swapping Munderstones all the time. You don't necessarily have to. You can keep the Thief, keep the higher crit bonus, and turn this to Sharpened. Again, you will lose crit chance, but at Execute, that will start pushing back up again. Now, the other set, there were many different options on the Easy Sork. This one is done, obviously, on purpose. We have chosen to use Briarheart for several different reasons. So, first of all, it gives you crit chance, stamina, and crit chance. Nice stam pool, plenty of crit chance, great. When you deal critical damage, which you will increase your weapon and spell damage. So, great, more damage for 10 seconds. While this effect is active, your critical strikes will heal you for 284 every single time you crit. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds, so there is a 5-second gap there. But the heals scale off of your maximum magicka or stamina. So there is a reason or some incentive for you to keep Inner Light on the bar, because now your heals are bigger. We don't have Crit Surge. We do have a Ghost Pet, but this heals us for doing damage all the time. It's very, very active. It procs a lot, and it will keep you alive alongside your Ghost. And again, it stacks alongside the benefits you need. You've got your heals, you've got your damage output, and you've got your crit chance. Everything is there. And because it's medium, you've got all your medium passives for more damage, more recovery, so you can use CC abilities a lot easier, dodge roll, break, all that kind of stuff. And again, your flat damage output is enhanced. The only thing you lack is penetration. If your group isn't bringing it, I've already gone over that. But the full set in medium, and another reason as to why we chose this, alongside of its effectiveness towards the build, is because this is from Orsinium. Now, most people that have been playing for a long time, got ESO Plus or whatever, I mean, this is considered base game now, I guess, will have access to this. But if you don't have access to this, it's Overland, by the way, this can be traded. You can get this off the market. You can buy it off of other players. You can get your friend to go and farm it and give it to you. This can be traded. Most of the time, Briarheart is expensive on the jewelry and the weapons. Most people don't put the gear up for that much money. So even if you get some really crap traits that you don't want for like 1k a piece, that's 5k and your set is done. Change the traits later with Transmute Stones. It's very, very cheap to acquire. So, normal Wayrest 1 for the Sergeant's gear, and go and buy these off the market for cheap for the rest of the gear. The only other one thing you'll have to do, obviously, for other content is you will have to do some pledges to get some keys to then acquire the Slime Craw shoulders. I would recommend you get it in light for the penetration bonus and the crit chance, but if you can't, then it's not the end of the world. Get whatever you can for the time being. The shoulders come from the boxes from the Undaunted Enclave. All you need to do is do pledges. And yes, again, you can do pledges on normal. This will give you the highest one-piece bonus crit chance that you can get outside of Mythics. So this is why we've chosen it. But again, there are other options for this. If you want Valken Scoria, that will give you more penetration flat out. But bear in mind, in group situations where all the pen bonuses are available, you will overcap, so it's a negative. Then you could go with other things that give you more resistances, or maybe a weapon and spell damage bonus. The choice is yours, but it is a high crit bonus. It is the best part of 3% and a bit chance, so it's quite nice. And finally, of course, the most important part of the build, and this does make or break the entire setup, strictly speaking. The Oaken Soul Ring. This will give you... Here we go. This will give you minor Berserk, minor Courage, major Brutality, major Sorcery, major Prophecy, major Savagery, minor Force, minor Protection, major Resolve, minor Mending, minor Fortitude, minor Intellect, minor Endurance, minor Heroism, minor Slayer, minor Aegis, and Empower. Empower 100% of the time on top of all the other buffs and bonuses, meaning you've got the bread and butter that most builds will have to actively bring themselves, and you can still benefit from some of the major buffs you don't have that other people can bring. So you can be solo, or you can go into a group scenario and still benefit from other people's buffs and bonuses and be useful regardless of where you are. But that Empower on tap, every time you heavy attack, you'll do damage and the Sergeant stacks it up. Every time you do a heavy attack during off balance, you'll get an increased 70% damage. Every time you do a heavy attack during off balance with that 70% increased damage plus Empower already, gives you another 80% on top. You get where we're going here. Your heavy attacks are fucking insane. Make sure you heavy attack as much as you possibly can while maintaining your 2 major damage abilities. Now, this also prevents you from swapping bars. So if you are in Cloud Rest and you do end up having issues with the lightning mechanic, if you're unfortunate enough to be the target over and over and over, and that isn't already altered in the game patch notes to allow you to use this in there without it being a problem, use your brain, take it off. If that situation arises, what you'll have to do is you will have to maybe put a Briarheart ring on if you like, or maybe the Sergeant ring. And so you can still have a 5-piece bonus. And then you can swap out the head and chest, or whichever way around you want to do it, and have a full monster set. That is an option. The only thing you'll be missing then is obviously all the minor and major bonuses, which you could have in your group. But if you want the Empower, then you're going to have to utilize a Mage's Guild skill, which means you might have to activate Empower occasionally with Inner Light. Or maybe put degen on or something or other. It's entirely up to you when you get in those situations what you do. I'm not going to force feed you unnecessary information if you're not going to be in those scenarios. But if you are, the obvious answer is take it off, replace the full set with a monster set, and allow yourself an extra piece here. You can duplicate this with the transmutation system anyway, because you can just rebuild the bloody thing from the sticker book. So it's not the end of the world. 9 times out of 10, that won't be an issue. In fact, 99 times out of 100, that won't be an issue. But if you are in Cloud Rest, you do want to do that stuff, and you do find that you get the lightning mechanic and you can't swap bars, obviously, then your option is to swap this out. For literally everything else in the entire game, even that sometimes, don't change the bloody thing. Everything will work flawlessly for you. We'll go over traits, obviously. Precise. Divines on absolutely everything. Bloodthirsting on all the jewelry with spell damage on all. Of course, you can use other gear if you want to, but you will get very different results. And of course, your survival and damage output will be altered. Now, champion points. So, this is very simple. All these nodes here, these yellowy, white, kind of hovery ones that don't actually do anything if you press on them, those are passives. Every single player in the entire game, if they get to about 1.6, 1.8k, whatever, even lower than that if you don't pick slottables, will be able to have these. Tank, DPS, healer, you'll be able to get all these passives. So they are inevitable. Activate them and fill them in as and when you can. There's no rush. You will have them. What's important is the 4 slottables, these blue glowy ones that have the little aura around them. Those are important. You need 4 of them. And this is what you need to do. So these ones are not very good on this build. You don't need them. You will overcap on crit damage if you have someone bring a major brittle. So what's the point? You're already on 115% just on the dummy. You can take advantage of the crit chance, obviously, but what you need to do is get to these. So the trick is to go from here to here. Unlock this here. Even if you put 10 points in there, that's unlocked. Now you have access to this area. You want Biting Aura, Deadly Aim, and Thermitage. Damage over time, including your heavy attack and your Siphon. Deadly Aim, single target, including your heavy attack to boost it. The rest of it is AoE, but that does boost your main bread and butter of the build, the heavy attack. And Biting Aura, which increases the damage from the splash that you do, increases your blast bones, it increases your wall of elements, it increases your Siphon because that is area of effect as well. Then, while you are in here, you do have access to this, which increases all of your heavy attack damage by 20%, on top of the 70 you already do from the off balance, on top of the 80 you already do from the Empower, on top of the 6, 4, 5 stacked 4 times you do from the Sergeant. You get the idea. These all stack very aggressively together. All these passive bonuses you will need, because they do give you extra penetration, extra status chance, extra damage for physical or magical types, and you are mixing them up, obviously, because you are doing both disease and fire and lightning. That's actually 3, not both, for 2, but you get the idea. Magical and physical. But get them in your own time. There's no rush. You can just make sure you slot these 4 slottables as soon as you can. Even if you half build them for now, get those on your bar and then build them over time. The rest, obviously, survival stuff. It's all passive. Everyone will get these eventually. Don't rush it. That will come in time. Now, the red tree, very simple again. Your slottables are the most important. So this one doesn't require any prerequisites. Just get that and slot it. 1,400 health. Banging. Done. This one, 1,731 armor. Such a weird number. Done. slot it. Then you want to unlock this halfway to unlock this. Even one slot into there, just 10 points, will unlock this. You want to max that. It's loads of health. 20 points into there. And then you'll have these. Siphon and spells. Kill something, get 1.5k Magicka back. Bloody Renewal. Kill something, get 1.5k stamina back. You can't run out of resources. All the yellow ones, get them in your own time. They are passives. Will they help you? Yes. Are they essential for everything? No. Take your time. Don't rush it. The 4 slottables are the ones that are important. Green ones really don't matter. As you can see, I've got none in. They don't matter. But if you want something that will help you in everyday situations, what you want to do is unlock these. This will make it so you don't have to charge your weapons up so much. So it's not really massively changing combat, but it's a convenience regardless. This will give you high quality items from chests. Again, doesn't affect combat, but it will give you better loot. This will make your food last longer. Whoopie-doo. I mean, we're using really cheap food anyway, which I didn't go over earlier. Flat stuff, by the way. Max Magicka, max health all day. This will have a chance to make you use a potion, but not actually consume it. So again, efficiency of resources, so quite nice. Not combat changing, just cheaper on your wallet. And this one does help you in content, but not the way you might think. This is a speed bonus, but it only works while things are dead or while you're not in combat. That does actually make a little bit of difference to you getting from one place to another nice and quickly, but it will only work when you're not fighting. So it can contribute to speed runs, I guess, if you take too long on a boss and you're rushing for time, but that's probably the most useful one in content. The rest are just cheaper resources and more money. Quality of life, if you like. Rotation time, I guess. So this is what you need to do. You need to maintain this wall of elements. It lasts for 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds, make sure you reapply it. You need to maintain a heavy attack. Now, technically, you could just do that. Just wall of elements and heavy attack. That will quite happily give you 60k DPS all day long. We're talking a rigged target dummy over there, by the way. Without even trying. So anyone that ever struggled and said, oh, I can't get more than 20k DPS, well, that is no longer an issue for you ever again. In fact, you will annihilate content and almost embarrass other people with the ease of use this actually has tucked under it. Now, alongside the wall of elements, of course, it's a little more complex than the lazy sork, although still quite simple. I just now activated a skull on myself. That was dumb. You need to maintain blast bones. Now, as you can see here, when I fire it, 3, 2, 1, fire. 3, 2, 1, fire. Now, it's grayed out while he's growing and jumping. So I can't do anything with that skill during that time. So what do? Keep the wall up. Heavy attack. Blast bones. Heavy attack. It's going to go bang. Blast bones again. By the time my heavy attack finishes, blast bones is ready. So just don't let go of the heavy attack button and keep spamming blast bones. That's it. Now, when your wall runs out, light attack wall or heavy attack wall, whatever, and then fire blast bones again. It's up to you how you approach this part because you want to make it simple, I'm sure, but if you want to make it a little bit cleaner, then you can alter it. So when the blast bones goes off the first time, you want to make sure that you light attack apply the siphon. That will last 20 seconds. And then quickly get the blast bone in again and get back on those heavies. Maintain this indefinitely. Always heavy blast bones if you can. In between, keep track of your timers. Light wall, carry on with the blast bones heavy. If the detonating siphon runs out, light siphon, carry on with the blast bones heavy. Just maintain those two skills all the time and you'll be fine. It's not the end of the world if it's off for more than a second. Quickly sneak it in there and just carry on. And that's it. Now, at the moment on this stupid target dummy, we're not really doing anything substantial. We don't have buffs and bonuses, and that's not really an accurate test. But if it comes to actual content, people that thought they were doing 10, 20k before, you're not. You're now actually doing a crap ton. In the meantime, heal is there when you need it. And if you want more ultimate, if you're using this skill, then of course, you can suck up the ulti off the ground and give yourself some extra ulti fuel. Again, that can be changed to inner light if you want to. In a nutshell, keep up the wall of elements. Keep up blast bones and heavies. Maintain siphon. That's it. Blast bone heavy, blast bone heavy, blast bone heavy. Just keep hold of the button if you want. And even if you want to keep it really simple, you can blast bones heavy, wall heavy, and then continue. You don't have to have the gaps in between and start messing with light attacks if you really don't want to. You'll just have a gap between your bursts. And that's basically it. It's really straightforward. So, technically speaking, in content, it should be very straightforward for you because all the complex stuff is done apart from your actual cast of those two abilities, excluding the wall. And all your survival is technically built in unless you need the ghost to heal you up. Because Briar Heart is going off, giving you damage bonuses and heals all the time. I mean, this is... Don't kill a target dummy like this because it's hardly got anything on it. It doesn't really count. But, I mean, your burst is quite high for a start. Even there, your burst at low health is like 40k on something that isn't even debuffed. So it's easy peasy. So if you're hitting the target dummy, as in the proper one, the big rigged one that doesn't have all the buffs and bonuses in the game, but has a very select few that are decided by the devs to put them on there, you're looking at around... If you're inexperienced and you struggle maintaining a couple of the skills, you're looking at an easy, with massive fuck-ups, you're looking at an easy 60 to 65k all day long. If you are experienced and you can track your buffs really well, and you can time them everything, and you don't have too many gaps, and you can weave in a couple of light attacks here and there when you're trying to clean up your skills, you're looking at about 75. Is that 120k DPS? No. Do you need 120k DPS? No. Can you apply this in every single situation flawlessly without having any major fluctuations, even as a very inexperienced player? 100% yes. This will do all content, no fucks given. All you need to do, essentially, maintain the wall, keep up a heavy, and fire skeletons. So, now it's time for fashion. Now, we are using... Where the hell has it gone? A Sapiarch? Is that how you say that? Sapiarch? I don't know how to say that. Someone write in the comment section how to say it in text and watch me still mess it up. It's funny when people do that. They actually put in text something that you couldn't read in text. Good job. Send me a voice note. That will help. Anyway, Fargrave Guardian Robe. This is a heavy helmet, by the way, I think. No, it's medium. That's a medium Sapiarch. Light Robe from Fargrave. This is also an Ebonheart Pauldron, so that's heavy. The belt, I'm just going to skip to it. I didn't mean to do that. That one, say A or R and sneeze. That's how you pronounce that. That is a medium hand piece there. This is the Fanglair belt. So he's got the skull on there. Obviously, he's a necromancer. No pants required. Doesn't matter what pants you use. Deadland Gladiator shoes. Again, doesn't really matter. You can't really see them, but if you want to be really, really picky about it and have some cool shoes, then you can. Now, the colors we're using... Oh, staff first. Sea Giant staff. How cool. The colors we're using are this one here. So the staff has got all black on it, but some of the pieces have got bits and pieces of black. It's actually this one here, which is Legate's black. You can choose any black you want, really. Black is black, but some are darker than others. And there's also a brown being weaved in here as well. So if you look here, these shoulders have got like a brown tint to them. It's actually kind of a silver. There's this one here, Sergeant's Charcoal. We're using that in some of the areas here, but that'll all be on the website. And the purple we're using is actually this one here. We're using Overlord's Purple for the different purple colors on the armor as well. So again, if you want to use those colors, make it exactly the same. That's what you need. It'll be on the website. If not, well, make your own fashion. So, thank you very much indeed for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube, of course, do hit that button. It is free. What's not free, however, is the join button. If you want to see some behind-the-scenes stuff or just have some emotes to throw in the chat, there's a feature for that if you want to take advantage of it. Also, there are links in the description below for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website ZynoGaming.com, Instagram, lots of other stuff out there. You can Google my name if you want. I'm sure you've done it before. People keep looking up my name. It's weird. It's already there. Why do you need to look it up? And, of course... leave your comments in the comment section below. Do you like the build? Do you hate the build? Have you tried the build? Have you not tried the build? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.